Hello, my name is Deidra Demens, and I'm here with Jaki Nett and Kevin Allen, and we are interviewing Jackie, senior Iyengar teacher, and the first Black senior Iyengar teacher. And this is for our Black History event at the Iyengar Institute of New York. And so first, to introduce Jackie, I'd like to just ask you about your experience starting out as in yoga, and then how you got to Iyengar yoga, and if you felt supported along the way, and what was available to you at that time.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Deidra. I started yoga in 1975. Was my first class that I took yoga in Los Angeles, and my first certification was with Indra Devi. And during the time that I was taking class, in fact, in 1975, my first teacher was a Black teacher in Southern California, in Santa Monica, and it never crossed my mind when I walked in. It was a Black teacher. It was just that was the case. She was a Black teacher, and she was a devotee of Indra Devi. And after I was there taking her class, she introduced Light on Yoga, because Mr. Iyengar was on television, and she came in and she introduced Light on Yoga, the book Light on Yoga. And so I immediately got the book. And she also, after about a year of studying, she said that Indra Devi was doing a teacher's training in Tecate, Mexico. And so I went and studied with Indra Devi and got my first certification there. And then a couple of years later, I went to Pennsylvania and studied with Amrit Desai, and I got my Kripalu Yoga certification. And I got married and moved to San Francisco. And I had heard of Judith Lassiter, who was teaching in San Francisco. And so I decided I was going to go and take teacher's training and get certified in the Iyengar tradition in San Francisco. And so I took my first class, actually it was in June of 1982. I have all my dates down here. June of 1982, and then my first class was with Felicity Green at that time. And so in September, this was June, in September, I started the teachers training program. I talked them into saying, oh, I'm certified, I'm so great and wonderful. And I talked them into letting me join the teachers training program. And it was the school was very small then. And so I took the teachers training program, and within the second semester, Asana 2, it became very obvious that I needed to really take the classes. They said, you need to take Iyengar classes, because it was, what I found was that Iyengar yoga just really put reality in your face, or I say in my face, because I thought I was so great and wonderful, and I came walking in there and it slapped reality right in my face. So I ended up dropping out of the program and started taking classes with Donald Moyer, because Judith Lassiter was pregnant with her last child. I got on her waiting list, and when she started teaching again around a year later, after studying with Donald Moyer, I went and started taking the teachers training program. And Judith Lassiter was my mentor and teacher. I took her on Fridays. And then on on Tuesdays and Sundays, I took Manuso's classes. And I went to India for the first time in 1986. and I became certified in 1988. And during that time, they didn't have the certification system like they have now. You had to have 2 teachers to sign for you. So Judith Lassiter and Larry Hatlett signed for me in 1988. And soon after that, I started teaching, becoming a teacher at the Iyengar Institute. And then in 1993, I took my first certification for intermediate. And at that time, you got all 3 of your levels at one time. And it was 12 of us in that. And so I got my certification for my intermediate 3 level in 1993. And in 2005, I got my senior 1 certification. And so going through that process, the teachers, I had very supportive teachers. Judith Lassiter was very supportive of me, and also was Manuso, was very supportive of me. Going to, and I would go to San Francisco, so I would travel to San Francisco for the teachers training, and that's 2.5 hours away each way. And then I would go 3 times a week. So like 4 times a week, I was driving this distance. And since up until the COVID, I was still driving to San Francisco to teach at least 3 times a week. So I was very, very determined and dedicated to Iyengar yoga. I went to India from the first time. It took me 3 years from the time I first went to when I went for my second time. And then after that, I would go practically every year. And I would stay between 2 to 4 months each time I would go. And it was detrimental to my classes, because I would come, I would build up my classes, and then I would go again, and they would go, and I couldn't blame the students. I would give them a substitute, but students liked to have a regular teacher and be there regularly. And I just couldn't help myself. I mean, it caused problems with my husband. It caused problems with my child, because I was gone all the time. But I had to go up until Gita died. I was going to go back the year she died, and so I haven't been back. I plan to go back at least one more time, because I want to say my goodbyes to the people that I've met at the Institute and people in the community that I've met. So I need to go back. And I think it's very important also for the senior teachers, senior meaning the people who've been going there, not so much in the hierarchy of the certification, but there are people who've been going back there year and year to study with Mr. Iyengar, to study with Gita, and to show my respect and to show that, to support the Institute. You know, Gita is not there, Mr. Iyengar is not there, but I need to show my support for Gita by still going there and studying with the teachers that are there now.
Thank you, Jackie. One of the things I heard in all that is it takes something to continue to do all this studying, whether as a student or as a teacher. So I want to ask you, why did you decide to start teaching, and what keeps you continuing to want to teach?
Well, I have always had, from a little, I was born with a learning disability. I have dyslexia. And so for me to learn something, I have to teach it. I have to get to know. So I'm constantly teaching to increase my knowledge, to increase my my understanding. Also, I came from a culture. I came from a segregated culture. I came from a family. My father was a doctor. My mother was a teacher. All of her friends were teachers. That says you have to keep your education. You have to keep studying. And so that's just something that I can't help. There's certain things I can't help not doing. And studying is one. Sometimes my husband comes in and I'm in bed early in the morning and I'm reading anatomy. So I'm constantly studying to be able to teach. Because when I was teaching the other traditions, when I came to where I live now in the Napa Valley, they were so happy to have a yoga teacher. I was teaching at the college. I have this certificate for life that I can teach it at the junior college. Although I have a degree that I was a psychology instructor for the upper division in junior college. So I was teaching at the college, then they started sending me to the senior places, the senior camps to teach. I was teaching all over and I was teaching with a yoga voice. And I was doing the yoga thing from the 60s. And I had this Iyengar yoga book, but I hadn't taken an Iyengar yoga class then. And so after I took my first Iyengar yoga class and they said, lift your kneecaps and stretch your arms and doing this. And I walked into class after one class and start, lift your kneecap and stretch. And I say they lifted their kneecap and walked out the door, because the next class I'm going, where is everybody? So I had to continue studying. I liked Iyengar yoga. I was immediately attracted to Iyengar yoga because it's very logical. It's very systematic. And I could ask a question and I got an answer instead of, well, it's from the prana, this type of thing. And so for me, and because of my learning disability, I can learn very complicated things. See Jane run that was very hard for me to read. To read an anatomy book is very easy. To understand very complicated things presented to me in a very systematic, logical way, I can understand. And that's how I teach. I'm very logical, very systematic, very anatomical, because it makes sense to me. And so I was attracted to that. Judith Lassiter made me understand, and I don't think she even knew she made me understand the importance of really understanding how the body moves anatomically, how the body moves in yoga with an anatomical understanding. And so that's why I stay and love Iyengar yoga.
It's so interesting and amazing to hear your story and how you started in yoga and then were introduced to Iyengar yoga, and even what you just spoke about and what keeps you practicing and teaching Iyengar yoga. How do you see, or how do you feel yoga and Iyengar yoga have influenced or kind of inspired or impacted your life outside of what we do on the mat?
Yeah, I have been asked that and heard those questions. I don't know. I tell people I don't let people call me a yogini. I'm not a yogini. And I got that from what imprinted that on me is Indra Devi says a yogini, a yoga and a yogini has to be a master in all of the levels of yoga. I'm an asana teacher. I don't teach philosophy. I don't, my professional life, part of my professional life was a humanistic psychologist. I don't do any type of psychology stuff in my classes. Maybe I do, but that's not my consciousness. Yoga for me and my teaching, it's just a part of my life. When I'm depressed, it's not so, oh, I'll go do restoratives. I don't do that. I'm not attracted to restoratives. When I went through menopause, the hardest thing for me was to do the restorative sequence for women in menopause. It was like, oh my God, how long is this? You know, I was sweating even though I'm laying there. I can sweat doing asana. So it's my personality type. Is that yoga for me is just a part of my life, and it's not something that I can say, oh, it has changed me or it affects me or it's whatever. It's just a part of my life. And I do yoga and I do my asana and I do my practice. In fact, I wrote and told Mr. Iyengar, I said, how I teach yoga is from anatomy. I'm an asana teacher. I'm not attracted to philosophy. I am not attracted to therapeutics. At the same time, it comes out. So it's not a conscious thing. I think it after you've done it so long or when you're really receptive to it, it gets in your skin. It's part of you. It's not something that I pull out now because I'm feeling depressed. Definitely, it helps me physically. I've gone through a lot of physical. For 5 years, Mr. Iyengar worked with me for uterine fibroids. I had very big fibroids. And so asana helps me with that. Asana helps me with my body injuries because I was very gung-ho, very tight, and I would injure myself. So learning how to work through my injuries and understanding how my body moves. And now my body is going through aging. And that's another stage in yoga. You know, I've been with this over 40 years with Iyengar Yoga. And so I was not young, I was in my 30s, but a 30-year-old body and a 70-some-year-old body is completely different. And so definitely now I'm using asana for my aging body and how I still can teach. And I have to teach to show one of the last things that Gita and I talked about, and I used to go and talk to her when I went to India, seeing and having my personal time with Gita was the icing on the cake. I looked forward to it. I would just see her sitting at her desk and I would just get so excited. But we talked about, because she and I were basically the same age. And we talked about aging and the problems the body would start feeling in aging, and how the body really gets worn out from demonstrating, and the body can wear out. And so she says, yes, we have to show also how to continue your practice and show how you can age with Iyengar Yoga. And that is one of the promises that I made to her, is that, you know, I came from a world that's completely at the opposite end of the spectrum of yoga. when I came to Iyengar Yoga. And that part of me still exists. It's still part of me, just like my Southern accent can come out. It's still part of me. And so I have no problem in being a little flamboyant. But still, when I teach yoga, you might still see that flamboyantness, but you can still say that I can say that my physical condition is definitely a result of Iyengar Yoga. My sister, we were talking about it. I would say, oh, it's because we have good genes. So yeah, we have good genes. And one of the things about the African American skin is that we don't show our age. And we tend, our tissue is different. It's just different. It's nothing, it's not saying some other genetics is inferior. This is what we were given. And so for me, my genes are there, but she said, you know, Jackie, how long have you been doing and working and doing your asana? How long? She said, Mom and Dad, my mother was so flexible. I wish I had her flexibility. I took my dad's body, which was very muscular. She said, you have mom's genes, you have dad's genes. She's very flexible, very beautiful. And she said, but it's because of your practice. And so that's what Iyengar does for me in my time. I'm working on my knees because I have demonstrated on the left side more, and I don't go in and do the full pose. I sort of hit the pose and come out, you're demonstrating. And so it's showing in my knees. So now my practice and my understanding, and I study about the knees and the tissue and all of these things to help me through these times. Because as we age, one of the things that goes, whether you do yoga or not, one of the first places is your knees.
One of the things you touched upon when you were sharing all that is that you feel like you came from a place that's completely on the opposite end of the spectrum from Iyengar Yoga. And I was wondering if you could talk about how maybe an experience on that end of the spectrum was informative or helpful, or a life lesson, or whatever, however you want to phrase it, in terms of where you ended up or where you were going.
Yeah. Where I was going, I didn't know. Where I ended up, I was surprised when I got there. It's that type of thing. I came from, I lived in LA, and I worked at Playboy. I worked there for 11 and a half years. And I literally walked out of Playboy into Iyengar Yoga. One of the things I was taking yoga from Indra Devi when I worked at the club. And the bunnies that took class, they were my first students. They were very encouraging for me to continue my study and continue to teach. Even when I see some of them now, they say, "Are you still teaching?" And I said, "Yes." And so when I went to Playboy, I was 23, and I came from a very sheltered life in Mississippi. And so that was my only job. I'd never had a job until I was 23, because my father took care of me. My father was a doctor, and as long as you're in school, he paid for everything. So I went there, and that was my first time being independent and making money, and we made very good money for that time. And it also gave me the ability to have a support group. They were very supportive there. One of the things that I always like to say about that time in my life, Hefner didn't believe in segregation. So there was no segregation in his clubs, in his organization. And also he encouraged the ladies to get a higher education. They paid for 50% of your education. So I was able to get my undergraduate there. And it gave me, I became the training bunny. So I trained for 10 years ladies to be bunnies. So I learned how to teach, although all of my life. I look back, I used to teach when I was in Girl Scout. I used to teach swimming. When I was in modeling, I used to teach modeling. I used to teach people how to ride motorcycles. Anything I did, I taught. And so from working there, I learned how to manage people. I learned how to control myself, to present myself. And that translated when I came to going to teaching at the university. I still have that power, that courage to present myself, to not feel threatened. Yeah, I don't feel threatened. In fact, when I feel threatened, that just pull me up and make me saying, oh, you don't want any of this. It's like, you don't want to have a competition here. So yeah, and then from there to Iyengar yoga, and for a lot of people, when they found out that I was a bunny, a lot of people were offended. I would say use the word offended, but they nose were in the air, and I'm sure there were statements made, and I probably had something to do with that because I was in a different type of acceptance than at the other end of the spectrum, and they're just two different things. Where when people find out that I was doing yoga at the Playboy end, they're going yay. At the yoga end, when they found out I was a bunny, it's like no, there's different type of mindsets, but that's life. It didn't stop me from doing my studies and my teaching, because there is a teacher for everybody. Whoever wants to take yoga, I might not be their type of teacher, but as far as I'm concerned, like I used to tell my students when I would go to India, and they would say, oh, what are we going to do? I said, it's not about me. If I leave and I come back and you come back, I'm happy to have you. The important thing is for you to do your yoga. That's the important thing. Not for you to sell your soul to me and wait for me to come back. Because everyone can get something from everybody that teach. It might not be, you might not want to stay with that person, but you don't let my going away to do my study to stop you from your study.
That's so amazing. I've heard about how Hugh Hefner and Playboy, how active they were, and how he supported the civil rights movement, and
Yes.
like you said, did not believe in segregation. Even though I've heard and read those things, it feels really different hearing you talk about it, and directly in how it made you feel or how it affected you in your life. It's really awesome to hear that.
It was very supportive, very supportive. I just saw a picture today of the Mr. Dudley. He was the Black general manager in LA when I met him. And it said that he started out working as a busboy in Chicago and ended up, room directors. I mean, when I went there, there was never this feeling of, oh, well, you're Black, so you're special. It was just you were part of the organization, and there was no separation in that sense. And there was a story that, because when Hefner started going having his parties and his organizations, it was segregated. It was segregated. And they'd say, oh, you're going to invite this person to my party, your party. And he said, yes, I'm going to invite my friends. If you don't want to come, if you don't come. I just filmed yesterday. There was a filming crew here because they're doing a documentary on the memories of the bunnies and what they're doing now. And they asked me to do some asana. And I just forgot what I was saying. Oh, I know what it was. So there was a program called Playboy After Dark, and they asked me if I had been on it, and I said yes. And the night that I was on it, that I remembered, I was the escort date for Marvin Gaye. And so they found on YouTube a clipping of that. The unfortunate part for me, they cut out the part where I was coming in with him. But when he was singing, they said, "Do you see me?" I said, "Oh yeah, there I am, there I am, there I am." And it was quite interesting to see, because he insisted there was no segregation, and he did a lot for what he could do in his organization. He did.
Do you feel there's been that support in the yoga community, in specifically the Iyengar community, to the support to make everyone feel welcome, appreciated, and accepted?
I can't say that. I can say that a lot of the times I didn't feel welcomed, appreciated, encouraged. I did have, I would say Patricia Walden was very accepting of me. I know Manuso is not in good standing, and so, I'm using that name that some people might be going, but he was very supportive of me. There was Larry Hatlett, Gloria Goldberg, and I can say those were supportive of me, but in a whole, it didn't feel very welcoming. It didn't feel like I wasn't welcome, although there's some. So the organization on a whole didn't feel unwelcoming. There were certain people that I had to deal with that did feel that way, that did act that way. And again, like I said, if I see it, I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to let them stop me. My husband used to say, "How could you keep going back? How could you keep doing that?" And I said, "I'm not going to let them. This is what I want." The essence of Iyengar yoga is beautiful. It's very beautiful. But there's some politics. And so if I let the politics get in my way, my feelings are going to be hurt because I wanted to be part of something and was never invited, it's not going to hurt me enough for me to leave it, because I felt, and I still feel, that Iyengar yoga in its purest sense is the best yoga for me. Not saying that's the only thing I can say. It's the best yoga for me. Other forms of yoga, I bow to them. I have no problems with other forms of yoga. But for me, Iyengar yoga was the best. And I couldn't let anybody's attitude towards me or how they feel about me will stop me. No, you can't do that. So.
It's a great attitude to have. I'm just thinking about, I think, access and inclusion. We have 3 Black Iyengar teachers on this call. But one of the things I think about is if I count the three of us here, like that's most of the Black Iyengar teachers I know, right?
Yeah.
That's counting the people on this call and counting myself. So I guess I'm just wondering, like, we agree that there's this great thing that we want people to have access to, but how do we go about getting it out to more people?
Yeah, that question has come up. That question has come up. I think it has to come from the person themselves having the interest. You know, it's just so much you can do a show to get people in. It's just so much you can do. I have always, and I can only look at me, I have always, if I want something, I will go and get it, you know, you know, you can, Deidra was saying how many students she had in her class, and I was very impressed about how many people of color she has in her class. I can say out of the whole 40 years I've been teaching at Iyengar Yoga, I've had two regular Black students at the whole time. And I've had a couple of drop-ins, but not regular students. So I don't know. You know, I think advertising is nice. People say, well, the location, if some of these places were in a location, I'm talking about the storefront now, in a location where there is more ethnicity, varied ethnicity groups, you would probably get maybe more students come in. But I've never had it. So I don't know. You know, and I've seen students come into the institute, and I smile at them, Black students, and I smile at them, and it's like I'm after their soul. They're looking around and avoiding my gaze. It's like, okay, okay. So I can't answer that question. I still think it's a personal thing. And you know, I have this class that I used to teach in San Francisco at 7 o'clock in the morning. I had to get up at 4 o'clock to get on the road to be there for 7 o'clock. And I would have people my students at 7 o'clock saying in San Francisco saying, oh, that's too early. Oh, that's too, I said, number one, I have no sympathy and definitely no empathy. So, because I'm up at 4. So I don't care how much you can sing your song, you're not getting any type of empathy or sympathy from me. So it's the person's individual. I think it's the person's individual interest, and some people might not can handle or ignore people. I'm very good at compartmentalizing. You know, I can ignore you so hard that you can feel uncomfortable. If you want to say, okay, let's make someone feel uncomfortable. You want to make me feel uncomfortable, I'll show you. So, you know, I can't say, because some people's tolerance and sensitivity is much different than mine. And they can say, well, you know, I don't feel comfortable here, and they go to another system. That was never a choice for me. And I did. I've tried other systems while I was certified, because one of my theory is that we're going to have people coming in from other systems. I want to know exactly what's going on in their system. So one of the ways you can do it is go and take a couple of classes. Yeah. And if my faith is so weak that I'm going to be taken out of my faith to go to another system, then it wasn't there in the first place. You know, Iyengar, you can talk to me. I can go to any system. It's not going to shake my faith in Iyengar Yoga. So it's only, you know, for just a little more knowledge, a little more information. We need to have a lot of information because we have a lot of people coming into the class. And you're going to have a lot of people coming in from other systems. And if you know that system, you can see their body type. I can basically see a body type and tell what system they've been in. Or if they have done gymnastics, like I asked Deidra, was she a gymnast or a dancer? Because her body is very strong and balanced. So we have to know these things without feeling like I'm being polluted by going to someone else, looking at another system, or that I'm being unfaithful, which is different than taking that system and teaching it. I don't mix systems. I know systems, but I don't mix systems because I teach Iyengar yoga. And I asked Gita once, I was contacted to teach a class in a, not a Bikram, a Ashtanga school in Asia. And I asked Gita, I told her about it, and she said to me that she gave me permission. It didn't come to fruition, but she gave me permission. She said, because I trust you will teach Iyengar yoga. I said, of course, nothing else. So to go into another system, into another environment, my faith, I'm too Iyengar yogified to go to trade for anything else, because I'm a snob. I'm an Iyengar snob. I don't think anything is any better. So I'm there looking, but I can tell you my nose is probably going this way because I'm totally sold on it.
So how has life been for you since the pandemic? How are there things that you are, I hear a lot of people talking about finding new hobbies or, I don't know, learning a language, something like that. Have you picked up on any things like that?
No. What has happened for me is my relationship with my husband is stronger, I think. COVID? Yeah. Because I travel a lot. There are certain times of the year that I wasn't here for a lot of Christmases, Thanksgiving, Christmas, because I was gone. And then I would be gone in the spring. And he was here alone, or he was here when my son was here, he was here. And so being with the COVID, being here, I'm home and we get along very well. We always did, and it also gave me a time to look at the maze. I was like in a rat maze. I did the same thing. I went the same, this is Monday, this is Tuesday. I did that. It gave me a time to really look at my life and see what do I really want to do. And then going on Zoom, I have a student that called me and said, you got to go on Zoom. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be on it because I don't understand it. I don't understand how to do it to this day. But with Zoom and with the COVID, my teaching has gotten, I would say, even more mature. It offered me that opportunity to teach in a different way. And so it has been, for me, in a whole, it's been positive. I missed very much so going to Europe. Although my Sunday class, the majority of the people are from Germany, are from Europe. Since COVID, I've gotten very few new students. COVID. I will pronounce things however it comes out. But since the virus and we had to stay at home, I do miss traveling. I look forward to going back to traveling. But it's for me, it's been positive. I miss hugging. I was a hugger, so I miss hugging. But other than that, this is what life has presented to us, and it's been a positive thing for me. Picking up something new. Now, I cook a little more than I've ever cooked. I do. I said a little. I said a little. My husband and my son made fun of me when I struggled. I was never a good cook. I hate shopping, and they made fun of me. And I said, okay, you make fun of my cooking, then you won't have to eat it. I stopped cooking for years. I stopped cooking so much so that my son ate pizza so much that he went to the pizza parlor and he said something about my mother. And they said, you have a mother? So now they're happy when I cook. So that's how I am. So COVID, the virus and staying at home it's been very good. It's very good.
After that pizza anecdote, I don't think there's anything else I can ask you that'll be a better way to end it. I think that was amazing. Thank you. Is there anything that you feel like you wish we had asked that we did not ask you?
No, but I want to thank you for thinking of me to ask, and I do take it as an honor, and I do support you. And like I said, you are the future. I'm one of the seniors that's going in the other direction, but you're the ones that will carry it on into the years to come. And I would encourage you to let your heart. I'll tell you a story, and then I'll let you go. So I was in Pune, and I was in the practice hall, and I was talking to someone, and probably talking to him about the knees. I'm sure it was about the knees. And Mr. Iyengar passed, and I was up by the stage, and he passed, and he had very long fingers, and he stopped it, and he stopped, and he pointed at me, and he said in my face, he says, teach what you know. And it's like, and I'm going, oh my God. And that stayed with me for a long time. And it's never left. I was in Germany, and I had this dream, and he came very clear to me. And he said again, but in a different way, with his finger still there, he says, teach what you know. And I wrote Gita, and I told her the dream. I told her the situation, and I told her the dream. And she wrote back and said, thank you for reminding me that Guruji says that. She said, it has two meanings. She says, teach, he's giving you a warning to teach what you know. On the other side, she says, teach what you know and never hide it in your heart. And so that's what I'd like to pass on to you, is that you are the forefront. You said 5 students. You are that. You want to teach what you know. At the same time, what you know, don't hold it in your heart. Don't keep it away. Okay?
Oh, that was so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice meeting you, Kevin. Nice seeing you again, Deidra. And I will be part of the audience looking, supporting you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.